Hello everyone and welcome to today's analysis. Today I'm asking the question, did the Supreme Court remove Abure? There's nobody in Nigeria today that has not heard about the judgment of the Supreme Court regarding the leadership of Labour Party, right? There's basically nobody that listens to news, that watches the TV channels in Nigeria that has not heard about the judgment of the Supreme Court. Some persons have given their own interpretation to the judgment. Some have said that Abure has been removed by that judgment. Some say he has not been removed directly, he has been removed by implication. Others say that the Supreme Court judgment has recognized Senator Nenadi Usman as being the leader of Labour Party. But my own question is, what is the position as found in the judgment of the Supreme Court? Did the Supreme Court remove Julius Abure? Now, let's have some background facts for you to be able to really understand exactly the events that led to the judgment of the Supreme Court. In 2024, during preparations for the Ondo State governorship election, INEC issued guidelines and issued codes to chairmen of political parties to enable them upload names of the agents of their parties, preparatory to the election. Abure was excluded by INEC. He was not given the codes, so he did not have access to upload the names of agents of his political party. And Abure was not comfortable with that. He wasn't happy about it and decided to go to the courts. Which court did he go to? He approached the Federal High Court, Abuja. And at the Federal High Court, Abuja, he challenged the decision of INEC. And he prayed the court to order INEC to recognize him and give him the codes and access to the portal for Labour Party. In one of his prayers, he asked the court to make an order compelling INEC to accord him all rights and privileges that belong to Labour Party under his leadership as Barrister Julius Abure. That's what happened in the Federal High Court. Argument was made and all that. And at the end of the day, the Federal High Court gave judgment in his favor and ordered INEC to recognize him and give him all the rights and privileges, including access to the portal. All the rights and privileges, in summary. Now, in between the hearing of the matter, Senator Nenadi Usman and Mr. Darlington, which Darlington is the secretary of the interim leadership of Labour Party. So both of them applied to the Federal High Court for them to be joined in the suit as interested parties, and they were joined. Argument was taken, and at the end of the day, judgment was given in favor of Abure. Nenadi Usman and Mr. Darlington went to the Court of Appeal. At the Court of Appeal, argument was also taken, but the Court of Appeal in its judgment still affirmed Abure as being the national chairman of Labour Party and supported the decision of the Federal High Court, which gave directive to INEC to recognize Julius Abure as the national chairman of the Labour Party. Nenadi Usman and Darlington, representing their own side of Labour Party, were not comfortable with that decision of the Court of Appeal, so they headed to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court took arguments from both sides, and on the 4th day of April 2025, the Supreme Court ruled, gave its own judgment. We've seen the CTC of the judgment, certified true copy of the judgment, and the judgment is not much. It has only 47 pages. And what does the judgment say? One, that both the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal that heard Abure's matter and recognized Abure as the national chairman of Labour Party had no jurisdiction whatsoever to have entertained the suits that were filed by Abure, because the court said issues of party leadership are issues not within the jurisdiction of courts of law in Nigeria. That's what the Supreme Court said. It blamed the two courts, the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal, for entertaining the matter, especially the portion of the judgment of the two courts that gave recognition to Julius Abure. 2. Consequently, upon the foregoing, the decisions of both the trial Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal recognizing Barrister Julius Abure as the national chairman of Labour Party are hereby set aside, and the suit that was filed at the Federal High Court Abuja is hereby struck out. This is the decision. Now, what's the reason why the court held as it held? The reason is that the the Supreme Court said that the Federal High Court did not even need to go into the matter, especially the matter of who is the leader of Labour Party or not, because courts in Nigeria do not have the jurisdiction to go into internal party affairs. But after the Supreme Court had given this judgment the way it gave, it struck out the matters, the Supreme Court went ahead to give what I call admonition, direction, or advice to Labour Party. What did the Supreme Court say? Let's quote directly from the judgment. Before I am done, may I admonish political parties and their members to endeavor to allow their constitutions, rules, regulations, and guidelines to guide them in choosing their officers as well as candidates. That way, incessant internal rifts, which always find their way to court, would reduce. If the constitution of a political party has prescribed duration for tenure of office of an officer, such officer should be humble to leave at the expiration of the tenure. I call this advice that has been given by the Supreme Court. You can call it admonition, you can call it directive, you can, see it as a roadmap that has been given to Labour Party and all other political parties by the Supreme Court. Now, what's the implication of this judgment? What's the implication? What are the implications of this judgment? What's the interpretation of these judgments that has been given by the number one court in the land? 1, the Supreme Court did not declare anyone as being the current national chairman of Labour Party. It's not here. What I'm analyzing is directly from the Supreme Court's judgment. And from this judgment, there is no way in the judgment where the Supreme Court has declared anyone between Abure and Nenadi Usman as being the current national chairman of Labour Party. You won't find it in this judgment. 2, the Supreme Court did not remove Abure in its judgment. Neither did the Supreme Court enthrone Senator Nenadi Usman as the new national chairman of Labour Party. It's not here in this judgment. 3, why did the Supreme Court take this position? Because doing so, that is, saying that Julius Abure is the national chairman, affirming it, or saying that Nenadi Usman is the national chairman, doing so would mean that the Supreme Court has fallen into the same mistake it blamed the Court of Appeal and Federal High Court of doing. So the Supreme Court decided no. Since we have said that the Federal High Court had no jurisdiction to have entertained internal party matters, and since we have said that the Court of Appeal also had no jurisdiction to make a pronouncement on internal party matters, we cannot now make a pronouncement on the same thing that we have blamed these two courts of. And the Supreme Court decided to be quiet and silent on that. 4, the court has rather admonished that if your tenure is over, you should humble yourself and go home. The question now is, has Abure's tenure expired? If yes, he has to go. If no, Labour Party has no option than to work with him till the expiration of his tenure, or they can remove him, but that has to be done through the provisions of their constitution. So, if you want to remove Abure, if his tenure is still intact and you want to remove him, what do? The law would expect that you open to your constitution, look at the provision for removal of a national chairman, and then you remove him through the provisions of your constitution. Anything outside that, somebody will certainly go to court and then seek to challenge the steps that have been taken. Now, what's my advice? Because Labour Party is one of the leading parties in Nigeria, one of the major political parties in Nigeria. At least when you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Labour Party should be among the leading national political parties in Nigeria. And a lot of Nigerian citizens look up to Labour Party to be able to provide the alternative to what the other major political parties have provided thus far. And therefore, lots of Nigerian citizens would want Labour Party to have their house in order to be able to challenge the bigger political parties in the country. Now, so what's my advice? My admonition is Labour Party needs to look inwards, have an honest family meeting, and decide on the way forward and on the future of their political party. Now, what's your take about what's going on in Labour Party? Is it healthy for our democracy? Is it healthy for our political culture in Nigeria? What do you also think about the position of the law that courts do not have jurisdiction over political party internal matters? The courts have jurisdiction to address issues of husband and wife. What is more internal than that? What is more internal? If the courts have jurisdiction to address such issues, don't you think that the Supreme Court should not take the issue of political parties' leadership as being extraordinarily internal? Don't you think that the Supreme Court should have a change of mind and also begin to look into the leadership of political parties as something that is justiciable? Or do you think that the Supreme Court should remain in its position the way it has been and not in any way interfere or go into what's happening in political parties in Nigeria? What is your own suggestion also for Labour Party to be able to move forward? Drop your comment in the comment section so that together we can also learn from you. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, please remember to subscribe to it so that together we can have a larger community of people sitting down together to discuss issues of law generally and to also discuss issues of law in the breaking news. Many thanks.